This past week at the NFL Combine. Let's talk about who said what, what's real, what's not. Let's just start off with the report from Josina Anderson, who is reporting that a quarterback coach picking in the top 7 of the NFL draft.
QB coach, huh?
Mm-hmm. Said Shedeur came off as, quote, brash and, quote, arrogant in his team interview. Do you believe that? Let's just start there. Do you believe that Shedeur Sanders could have came off brash and arrogant in an interview with a team?
Yeah, just like anybody else would. I mean, one thing that I've learned about people and players in general, Zach, is everybody comes from all walks of life, all different walks of life, the way that they interact, the way that they talk to people. They're not all going to be the same. So somebody may be more proper and do things by the book while the other ones do it a certain way. But that doesn't mean that they're trying to or they're trying to be mean to you. You are who you are. And if Shedeur Sanders is rubbing you the wrong way, it's probably because you went into that meeting wanting him to rub you the wrong way. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to just do it to anybody. I don't think that's in his nature. That's not his character to dismiss or make somebody feel different. Obviously, the quarterback coach felt different about Shedeur in the way that he was acting towards him. I don't believe that Shedeur Sanders was doing that, Zach. This is an interview. Like, this is your time to shine. It doesn't matter if you're going the first pick of the NFL draft or the last pick of the NFL draft. You still want to make sure that you do not burn bridges with anybody.
Well, I think back to the story that Dion has told himself.
Yeah.
That I think you maybe mentioned it.
Yeah, with the Giants. And the Giants had a sheet of paper, and it was thick, and they wanted him to do a test. Well, they were going in like the top 12 maybe. I mean, there was 12 maybe the 15th. And Coach Prime pretty much said, look, I'm not going to be there. Therefore, I'm not taking your test.
Right.
Which I agree with. Like, if I'm not going to be there because I'm going to be the first or second pick in the NFL draft, why would I do that? Simple as that.
What if that was the approach from Shedeur? And it's almost like not and I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and figure out what this coach was talking about. Maybe he was not invested in the meeting. What if he wasn't invested? But what's tricky is that he was talking to a team that was picking in the top 7.
Exactly, the top 7. The top 7, that's big time. Why would you brush anybody off that's in the top 7 or top 10? Now, if you're picking like 20th, 29th, like, I can understand that. And I'm not telling you that it's good if you are brushing people off. It's not the right thing to do. But you're talking about the top 7th. So I'm not going to believe the person that put that out there. Zach, I'm sorry, I'm not. Now, I may be wrong. And I may be putting my neck out there. I just don't see that happening for a young man that wants to show the world that he belongs there. And that's not just because of his name. And it's not just because he had a couple good years with the University of Colorado, that he can be a franchise quarterback. And how do you do that? You have to interview well. You have to talk to the people well. And the people mean the coaches, the general manager, the owner maybe that's in there that decides to come to Indianapolis to see the interview.
Yeah.
Anybody that's in there, you want to talk to well.
Yeah. This last 24 hours has been really interesting to watch Shedeur, because it feels like, and this is just what it feels like, this may not be what it is, because this is a silly season.
Yeah.
That we're in right now. This is March before April's draft. And there has been, every year something comes up with someone, and it's sometimes I'm like, is a team purposefully trying to sabotage this player so they fall to them, which Dion talked about a month or two ago.
Oh, they'll do anything to get you now, especially if they know they can't have you. And now they're going off and they're giving their insiders little clues and telling them, hey, we don't really like this kid, when they really do.
Right.
So, yes, it's a bunch of head games, and you got to see right through that. I just believe that this is not a head game. It's somebody that truly believes that Shedeur Sanders did them wrong or did not give them the time of day.
Right. And that right there. And what if, again, more devil's advocate stuff, what if Shedeur Sanders, again, I don't know this, I'm speculating, but what if he's sitting down with a team that he has absolutely, positively no interest in going to? And maybe not like in an over-the-top way, like putting his feet up on the desk or something, but like maybe if he just was like, you want to know what? I'm not
I'm not feeling it.
I'm not turned on. I'm not turned on. Not like turned on from a personality. Like you're on. And what if he was just like, yeah, this is not. I'm not coming here. I don't want to come here. Therefore, you're not going to get my best foot forward, type of deal.
Yeah, I mean that could happen. There's players out there that are willing to do that to themselves, but I don't see it happening when you're dealing with a quarterback that is going to be somebody's franchise quarterback that you hope can be. Like Bo Nix is to us. And so you want to put your best foot forward. And so I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. I really am not. And I'm looking at the list, like the top 7, all right, starting with the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns, the Giants, New England Patriots. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Coming in at 6, you got the Raiders. And then guess what? Lucky number 7, who is that? It's the Jets.
Like, what if it was the Jets? And he's like, I'm not going to you guys.
I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be the Jets. I'm pretty sure it might be the Jets that are putting that out there, that are putting the speculation that Shedeur Sanders did not do a good job with us and he was blowing us off.
Yeah.
Would you want to go to the Jets?
No, I would not. And that's why I said if Dion was going to talk tough 6 months ago and say, we will step in and pull an Eli, that would be the team where you step in and do it. So maybe again, speculating heavily and wildly, maybe this is just Shedeur's way of handling it. And he's purposefully trying to turn a team off.
Well, then his dad told him to do it.
Maybe so.
They're very calculated. Everything they do. Coach Prime does things that's like head scratching, but it ends up being smart. And it's like, man, like there's a reason to his madness. And so if that is the case, and Coach Prime told his son to go out to the Jets and tell him, hey, like I don't want to be with you guys and I'm going to be short with you guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a reason for that. I just don't see that happening, man. This is the kid's only time to show the world, to show each team that he can be presentable in any way, shape, or form. He can go out there not just as a player, but as a person and have that CEO energy.
See, but okay, so we're going down the road of the CEO energy. We talked about this on Friday. And I knew.
Oh, here we go.
I know.
Sit back.
I know. Yeah, sit back. And let me go in my bag and grab my hater hat.
Get the hater hat.
Grab
Make sure you put it sideways now. Put it sideways.
So I said on Friday, I said, look, every opinion that I share doesn't have to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what we do all day. We sit and share sports opinions. But not everything is a big deal. Okay? And we had some fun with it on Friday when I grabbed my hater hat, and because I was talking about a hat that I was just like, I'm not really a fan of. First of all, let me just emphasize what I've said since September.
Please do.
Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this draft.
You still believe that?
Yes.
Okay.
They haven't played a game, and this is why it's a silly season, because the further we get removed from games, you go down these winding roads of stuff like this. Mm-hmm. But I did say on Friday, and we'll tie it back to this sort of accusation, I guess, from this quarterback coach. I think the NFL Combine is a bit of a job interview, all right? And when quarterback is just a little bit different from the other positions in football, okay? It represents something different. So I said I didn't love that Shedeur Sanders goes up to the podium with a sideways hat on, because you're auditioning to be the CEO of a $5 billion franchise. And
you sound like a dad right
now. I know I do. And this is why I flagged it ahead of time. That like I know how I'm going to sound. That's why I say I grab my hater hat, because I've never seen a CEO with a sideways hat on. And that's what he is auditioning to do. So I said I didn't love that little nuance of it. I can't recall a quarterback that wore a sideways hat. That doesn't mean that Shedeur Sanders isn't going to end up as a Hall of Famer. But what I'm tying it back to this thing today is maybe it's just the way that he comes off to someone who then will take it a step farther than I took it by saying, I'm not really a big fan of that, but they take it as this young man is brash. This young man is arrogant.
But then you had it in your head already. You had it in your head already that you're trying to find something that you can latch onto to say, this is why I feel the way I feel. Whether it's the backwards hat or the sideways hat,
just
or the way
that
you're exactly, or the way that somebody talks. It's like, this is what I was looking for. And now I can go back and say, I don't like you. And what do I always say? People like who they like. And if you don't like the young man because he wears a sideways hat or the way that he talks or the chains that he wears, because that's the fashion anyway, all of them are doing it. Mm-hmm. Even Kirk Cousins has a chain. Then you just don't like that player. And maybe you shouldn't be doing your job because this is not about liking somebody. It's about winning games.
Right.
People don't like Tom Brady because he's an asshole, but he wins games. And he talked about it on air during a game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when people were talking about my man Baker Mayfield and how people are like, hey, we didn't like the way Tom Brady talked to certain people or the way he did certain things. And Tom Brady pretty much said, I win. I'm a winner.
Yeah.
And so that's how you have to look at it. If you believe Shedeur Sanders is a winner and he can win you games, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. Now, by the way, you mentioned Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield had got this same criticism too.
He did. Well, he was running away from cops. You remember that, right? There was a cop that tackled him, looked like a linebacker.
He was grabbing his groin, and he was planting flags, and he had the backwards hat that I remember.
There's a person that has a backwards hat?
No, I'm bringing this up because Colin Cowherd, I remember, who's like one of the biggest names in sports media, was like, he's like, this is so funny because you mentioned Tom Brady. He was like, Tom Brady wouldn't wear a backwards hat. Peyton Manning wouldn't wear. It was like one of these things. It's like a little, Colinism or whatever. But so Shedeur is not the first person to get criticism like this. No. Baker got it. Johnny Manziel got it.
He won't be the last.
And he will not be the last. But what is interesting to me is it feels like, and again, maybe it's all fake, but it feels like he got really knocked over the weekend from some of this stuff coming out of the combine. And I want to play a little bit of Todd McShay, who, he does a good job of setting it up himself. This is Todd McShay on his podcast talking about Shedeur's weekend in Indianapolis.
Two people that I spoke to were in meetings and had these individual meetings that I just laid out to you, what they are, who's in there, and why they're important. Teams in the top 10 drafting that need a quarterback. The two people that I spoke to in these positions left the meeting feeling like Shedeur Sanders was not overly concerned with what they thought of him. They had a 15-minute meeting with them, and when they were done, they both said in different ways, different words, that they did not feel like Shedeur Sanders cared all that much about what that organization thought of him.
Okay, so this is like a separate guy saying he talked to these two organizations, and they both sort of said the same thing. Yeah. And I'll just let Todd finish his thoughts, and then we can react.
One said that it wasn't a professional approach. One person that I talked to said the best way I can describe it is it just wasn't it wasn't a professional approach. Shedeur Sanders did not take a professional approach to this interview. The other person I talked to said he wasn't taking it seriously at all. I didn't get the sense that he was taking it seriously. So when you hear it wasn't a professional approach, and you hear he wasn't taking it all that seriously, that's not the interview that you're it's not the response you're looking for from a potential suitor, from somewhere you plan to go play. Now, I think it's also important, because I'm sure people will pull clips and have all sorts of things to say. It's very important, and hear me when I say this. There was no bad behavior. There was nothing disrespectful said or done. There was no kind of altercation. And it wasn't like Good Will Hunting when Ben Affleck went in for Matt Damon and put his feet up on the desk and yelled, "Retainer, retainer." Like, it wasn't that. So I'm not trying to overblow this to try to get clicks and people get,
Okay, so interesting stuff. What do you make of everything that you just heard?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he laid it out like he did. I'm glad that he put two sides to a story. He explains that there was two people now, guys. He's talking about just two people that he trusts that were in the meeting. And when they came out, which everybody has an opinion, everybody's opinion is going to be different. The way you view somebody will be different.
Yep.
And they talked about he was not professional, didn't go at it in a professional way. And they didn't. And then another one said he was not taking it serious.
Right.
To me, what it sounds like is what needs to be taken serious. Everything is taken serious. This is your job interview. I don't look at Shedeur and say, oh, he's laughing. He's not. He's just leaning back and he's eating some sunflower seeds. So what needs to be taken more serious? Maybe you can answer that for me.
No,
because
no. And it's interesting because obviously I'm not in the room. And you have McShay, who I thought did a good job of, he said, we got to just make sure we emphasize there was no specific thing. So it almost feels like Shedeur's super casual, cool as a cucumber sort of I'm just going to call it like swag, like his own like personality.
Yeah.
He is very he's just cool. He's cooler than the other side of the pillow. Like that's kind of who he is.
That's his personality.
It's his personality.
Yeah.
And I think that GMs or coaches feel like you should feel lucky to be here sitting across from me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
they want a little power.
Yes. It's like you should feel lucky. And if I get a smidgen of you're not yes or no, sir, standing up straight, then you're going to come off and you're going to rub me the wrong way.
Yeah, but see, that's the issue right now.
Because you're kind of playing psychiatrist a little bit.
No, I agree. But like now, let's ask the question here: should the Kansas City Chiefs say, hey, Patrick, you should be lucky we drafted you, or is it the opposite? Hey, we are lucky that we did draft you.
It's that one.
There you go.
It's that one.
That's Josh Allen. That's Bo Nix for us right now.
Yeah.
At some point, it's like the players are the ones playing the games. And if you want to get it right, it's not about necessarily liking somebody. It's about, hey, that player can play.
Right.
And he can win you games.
Right.
That's how I am. I may not like everybody. I may not like Zach Bye.
Aw.
Which I do.
That hurts.
But I respect you, and you do a great job. And you're one of the best to do it. So why would I sit here and dock points because of something that I have against you? A personal vendetta, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about winning. And so for some of these teams, they take it as, like you just said, you should be lucky we're sitting right in front of you.
Right. And I think historically, see, this is where
I like you, by the way, Zach. I love you, baby.
This is where this conversation, I think, is entering into a new chapter of all things college and NFL football being blended together in a scenario like this.
Yeah.
Because throughout time, that player has sort of sat across the table and is like, please pick me. This could change my life. I've worked so hard for this. And not that that's not the case with maybe Shedeur Sanders in his heart of hearts, but it is a little bit different that these guys are coming out of college rich.
Yeah.
Rich.
Yeah.
And Phil, just ask them. Right?
They got money now.
Right. And
Maybachs and everything else.
He is living the lifestyle of an NFL player in college. So this is not, I think, specific to Shedeur.
I agree. But wouldn't you rather see that, the real person, than somebody pretending to be buttoned up saying yes, sir, and no, sir, and kissing butt? Like, I'd rather find out fast as hell who I really am dealing with.
Right.
And if we can be a good pairing, and if I'm okay with your flaws, then I'll be okay with who you are, and we'll move on, and we'll win a lot of games. You know who comes to mind that you talk about all the time that was buttoned up, ready, presented himself really well, was drafted, was E.J. Manuel for the Buffalo Bills that you talked about all the time.
He wore a suit to the meeting, and they were like, this classic Buffalo, like, oh, he wore a suit. He wore a suit. This is a CEO. But guess what? He couldn't play.
Yeah.
He couldn't play. And that's a great point. In that I think that in general, this is not specific to Shedeur, even though that was the jumping off point of this conversation. I think that NFL teams are going to have to, with certain players, rewire their own thinking that may be decades. It may be a 55-year-old coach sitting across from this 22-year-old kid.
No, you're right.
Who is, like, these guys are making money and have security and, like the financial security, and stardom in a way that just has not existed. Maybe the stardom part, but not the getting flat out rich.
Yes.
In college,
getting paid money.
So Shedeur Sanders is not going into that interview with the sense of desperation that might have existed 9 years ago. And so I think that
and you said one key word in there, Zach, and that's kids. 22-year-old kids.
Yeah.
They are still kids.
Definitely.
They're going to make mistakes.
Yep.
They're going to do some great things. They're going to do some bad things. But as a coach, as a 55-year-old coach, or Sean, who's 61, 62, you end up still having to be a father figure to a lot of them. Zach, when I got to the NFL, we were taking classes about money, taking classes about etiquettes, taking classes about things that we didn't know about just yet.
Right.
We learned about taxes. That was the first time that I truly learned about taxes was in the NFL my rookie year. Because we were still kids, college kids that just got drafted or just got an opportunity to be on the team. And then you hand them money. Now they're going to be a little bit more seasoned because they're already been handed out a little bit of money.
Right.
So that's not the issue now. Now you can kind of go into like, this is who they are.
Dude, and you want to know what? And this is, again, we're this conversation's evolving. You might be better off looking at a player who's already made the money because that's who they're going to be.
That's who they are.
Not someone who hasn't had it and then gets it and might switch up on you.
Because that happens a lot.
And that happens a lot too. So it's like you might be getting, look, if I'm not trying to play defense for Shedeur, because we weren't in those meetings, and no. I certainly wasn't. So I don't know if he was arrogant or brash. And if he was he doing it on purpose? I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he just came off the wrong way. But I just think that I don't think it's enough reason after talking this out, unless he was egregious in a way that we haven't seen. Because here's the thing. If I were to say, and again, I'm not trying to tell you not to get turned off by Shedeur Sanders. If you're turned off by Shedeur Sanders, you're turned off by Shedeur Sanders.
And you stated already, you still believe that he's
the best quarterback in the class.
As do I. I believe he is the best quarterback in the class. He's a leader. He can win games. He's accurate. All right, consistent as can be. Creates plays with his legs. Very smart. Okay, he can get the ball out of his hands faster than what people think. If you go and watch the TCU game, and he creates plays, like I said before, like he's a good quarterback for a team.
Yeah. And
sorry for cutting you off.
No. And for me personally, like, and this is so crazy because with all things CU, it's all a la carte because it's not like an agenda. Okay, so I can acknowledge two things at the same time that can live in the same universe.
Yeah.
Did I love Shedeur wearing a sideways hat at the job interview in Indianapolis? No, I didn't. I'd be misrepresenting myself if I said that I was a fan of that. But also simultaneously, I can say this kid is the best quarterback in the class.
Yeah.
And if I needed a quarterback, I'd be drafting Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. Because
E.J. Manuel wore the suit, and it didn't matter because you can't play. Shedeur Sanders can read a defense. He's accurate with the ball.
Well, like, think about this, like a little inside thing with us. When we first met and you said, hey, let's go and get something to eat, we went and got wings at a golf park. And you showed up. I was a little bit more, buttoned up, dressed up, because it's like, okay, like I want to present myself well to you.
Yes.
But you came in, shorts, T-shirt, sat down, ate your wings, had a beer with me, and I felt comfortable because I knew that's who you are. There's no like a peekaboo. I'm a mask. This is a mask. Like, no, this is who you are, and this is who I'm getting every single day. And so sometimes I'd rather see the real you, and I think a lot of us need to see the real person. And I feel like that's who you're getting with Shedeur Sanders is the real him. Either you like it or you don't.
Yeah, man. Oh man. Judging by the response on the RamosLaw.com text line, I feel like if we were to open up the phones, we'd be busy for the next 2.5 hours because everyone has an opinion. Okay. All right. We'll see what happens. He is in some mocks now. Dude, I saw NFL.com Lance Zierlein, who I respect. I followed his work for years. He's got him going 29th.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. My man had a couple shots. That's what that was about. Up late, working. Screw it, 29.
There's some mocks now haven't fallen out of the first round.
I guess that's good for some team. It's like, hey, everybody's buying the bait.
Yeah. Look, I think
taking the bait.
Not to pat you or I on the back, but I think we just had a comprehensive conversation looking at it from different angles, and everyone's got an opinion on this stuff. But we try to go about it the best way we can and examining different angles.